My name is Daniel Hayes. I'm 36, and what happened on the night of July 14th changed my life in a way I never saw coming. I live in the rougher part of Dallas, Texas. Single dad. My daughter Emily is 7. She still believes I can fix anything with duct tape and hope. But truth is, I'm just a broke janitor holding on by a thread. Most nights, I clean floors in downtown office buildings. People walk past me like I'm invisible. Nobody asks about the man with tired eyes pushing a mop at 2 a.m. But that night, someone noticed. It was just past midnight. I was heading home in my old pickup, thinking about how to tell Emily her favorite sneakers were too expensive this month. That's when I saw the flames, red against black sky, coming from an old apartment block off Lamar Street. Smoke thick as nightmares, people screaming from windows, and not a siren in earshot. I should have driven past. It wasn't my building. It wasn't my problem. But I couldn't. I slammed the brakes, kicked the door open, and ran in. Didn't even think twice. Inside, it was chaos. Fire roaring through stairwells, walls cracking, heat biting through my skin. That's when I saw her. A woman. Trapped under a beam, coughing, eyes wide with panic. She looked straight at me like she'd already accepted death. I didn't let her. Somehow I got her out. We collapsed onto the pavement. She was shaking, trying to breathe, covered in soot. Then she grabbed my hand and said something I'll never forget. You just saved the wrong woman, and the right man is going to hate you for it. Next morning, I woke up with burns on my arms, ash still in my lungs, and zero clue who that woman really was. No news channels mentioned me. No hero saves life headline. Just footage of the building collapse and a vague report about one survivor pulled from the wreckage. By noon, I was back at work, mopping office tiles like nothing happened. My boss, Mr. Kellner, spotted the bandages on my hands and laughed. What happened to you? Burn your dreams down finally. I didn't answer. I needed the hours. Emily needed dinner. But things went downhill fast. That night, my bank app showed an overdraft. Rent bounced. My phone buzzed. Final notice, account closed. Then I found a notice taped to our apartment door. Eviction in 7 days. Emily asked, Daddy, does that mean we don't have a home anymore? I smiled for her. Lied. Of course not, baby. We're just moving somewhere better. But the cracks were widening. The next day, something even stranger happened. While walking Emily to school, I noticed a black SUV idling across the street. Windows tinted. Engine running. A man inside wore a suit and sunglasses, watching. Not driving. Just watching. At the corner store later, the same SUV pulled in. I saw the same man again. Still not speaking. Still staring. That night, I found something on our doorstep. A sleek black envelope. No return name. Inside just one card. Hyatt Hotel. Room 1409. Tomorrow. Noon. Come alone. I nearly threw it out. Until I flipped it over. In small gold lettering it said, Victoria Sterling thanks you for your service. Hyatt Hotel wasn't the kind of place guys like me walked into. The lobby smelled like money. Marble floors, gold accents, concierge in a tux. I felt the stares. Like I didn't belong. And maybe I didn't. Room 1409 was at the end of a silent hallway. I knocked once. The door opened. She stood there. Clean, elegant, composed. Not a single burn on her skin. Like the fire had never happened. Daniel, she said softly. I'm glad you came. She led me inside. There were 2 bodyguards, 1 assistant, and a laptop open to satellite footage of the fire. Her name was Victoria Sterling, daughter of Richard Sterling, Texas oil magnate. The name everyone in Dallas whispered but never said too loud. The man who owned half the city, and feared losing the other half. Victoria poured me a drink I didn't touch. You saved my life, she said. But that fire wasn't random. And now you're in it, whether you want to be or not. I told her I didn't want anything. No reward. No trouble. Just peace for me and my daughter. She nodded. You're a good man. That's why they'll target you. I didn't understand. But I would soon. Later that evening, I picked Emily up from school. Another father, wealthy, smug, watched me from his Mercedes. Then smirked. Must be tough, he said. Raising a kid on mop money. Maybe you should have stayed in that fire. I clenched my fists. Didn't respond. Emily squeezed my hand. When we got home, another envelope waited on our doorstep. Inside was a photograph of me and Emily walking that very morning. On the back, one sentence was scrawled in red ink. Back off the Sterlings, or bury your child next. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the couch, holding Emily close, watching shadows move across the wall. Whoever left that photo knew where we lived, knew our routine, and wanted me afraid. I texted Victoria. She replied instantly. Meet me. 6 a.m. Corner of Ross and Pearl. Come alone. I did. She was already there, standing in front of an old, beat-up warehouse. Not her usual designer look. This time, hoodie, no makeup, unmarked car. She looked a human. I didn't want this for you, she said. But it's gone too far. She unlocked the gate and led me inside, past rusted lockers and dusty crates. Then she opened a hidden drawer built into the wall. Inside, an old leather journal. Charred edges. Smelled like smoke and secrets. My mother's, she whispered. She died when I was 12. Everyone said it was cancer, but this proves otherwise. The pages were filled with sketches, devices, wiring diagrams, energy models. One word kept repeating. Phoenix Drive. Clean energy. Limitless. And completely off the grid. She built a prototype, Victoria said. And the night you saved me, someone tried to burn it, and me with it. I flipped to the back of the journal. A photo was tucked inside. It was Victoria as a child, smiling, holding hands with a man I recognized instantly. Not from TV, not from real life, but from Emily's bedside drawer. It was the same man in the photo her mother kept hidden. Family photo. My late wife and her brother. This man, I said, voice shaking. He's my brother-in-law. Victoria blinked. That's Edward, my cousin. Twist revealed. My dead wife's family is tied to the Sterlings. Cliffhanger. And now my daughter was caught in the middle of a billionaire blood war. The more I learned, the less things made sense. Victoria's cousin Edward, my late wife's brother, had been erased from our lives years ago. No photos, no mentions. My wife never talked about her family, not even once. Now I understood why. They weren't just rich. They were dangerous. Victoria handed me a folded sheet from the back of the journal, a blueprint. Not for the device, but for something else. A location, coordinates, hidden inside one of the Sterling's oldest oil fields. There's a buried vault there, she whispered. My mother hid the Phoenix Drive's first prototype underground, sealed with biometric access. And Edward, I asked. He's been hunting it for years. That night, back at the apartment, I couldn't sleep. I got up around 2 a.m., made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table staring at the blueprint. That's when I heard it. A soft knock at the door. Not pounding, just slow, methodical. I peeked through the peephole. No one. But when I opened the door, an envelope lay on the floor. No name, no seal. Inside was a photo of the oil field, and a message scribbled across it in rough ink. You dig, you die. I took Emily to my friend Pete's the next day. Told her it was just a sleepover. I drove alone to the edge of the old Sterling oil site. Half abandoned, fenced up, private property signs everywhere. But the gate was unlocked. Inside, weeds had taken over the asphalt. Storage units lined the far side of the compound. Rusted, sealed, forgotten. As I walked deeper in, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. Turn around. Cliffhanger. I turned slowly, and someone was standing behind me, holding a shovel. He was tall, weathered face, holding a shovel like it was part of him. "Put that blueprint away, son," he said. My hands froze. "Who are you?" The man stepped into the light. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He looked like someone I'd seen in faded black and white photos. Long ago, on my mother's shelf. No, couldn't be. "I'm Thomas Hayes," he said. "Your grandfather." My knees nearly buckled. "You died in '94, I whispered. He chuckled, bitter. "No, boy. I disappeared. Faked my death. Because if I hadn't, the Sterlings would have made it real." My mind was spinning. Everything I knew, everything I believed was cracking. He led me into one of the abandoned sheds. Inside, maps, blueprints, files, even photos of Victoria as a teenager. He had been watching everything for years. "I worked with Victoria's mother," he said. "We built the Phoenix Drive together. Then they buried her. And me." I looked at him, stunned. "Why now? Why show yourself to me?" "Because you stepped into the fire. Literally. And now they'll come for your daughter, too. You're the last Hayes. The last one who can protect what matters." Suddenly, glass shattered outside. A gunshot rang out. Then another. I grabbed the journal and ducked as bullets tore through the wall. "They found us," he said, eyes burning. We ran out the back, slipping through tall grass into the tree line. My mind raced. My heart was pure chaos. That night we camped in silence. No fire, no light, just stars. Before sleep took me, he looked over and said one last thing. "If you want to survive this, you'll have to choose between the truth and your daughter." We found shelter in an abandoned ranger station upstate. No power, no phone signal, just silence. Over a small lantern flame, my grandfather opened a metal box he'd carried for decades. Inside were files, taped cassettes, and a single photograph. My mother, Victoria's mother, and him smiling, holding hands beside a strange glowing device. "The Phoenix Drive," he said. "It worked. We made it. Infinite energy, clean and free." He leaned forward, voice trembling. "We wanted to give it to the world, but the world didn't want it." I listened as he described how oil barons, politicians, and power-hungry elites, including Richard Sterling, sabotaged the project. They bought silence, destroyed labs, vanished scientists. "And Victoria's mom?" I asked. His face darkened. "She was the soul of the invention. Smart, brave. She believed people deserved freedom from oil, but she also believed Richard could change. She married him," he said, voice cracking, "and he killed her for trying to make the drive public." I felt something shift inside me. All my life I thought I was poor because I was unlucky. But now I saw it. This wasn't about fate. This was a war. A war I'd been born into without knowing. Then came the final blow. He pulled out a sealed letter. My name handwritten on the front. "She wrote this," he said, "for you, before she died." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, her words. "If you're reading this, it means someone survived. Someone still believes the world deserves better. Don't run, Daniel. Fight. For Emily. For all of us." I sat frozen, tears running down my face. And that's when my phone buzzed. One bar of signal. One message. "We have your daughter. Final warning." The message glowed on my cracked screen. "We have your daughter. Final warning." I froze. My heart dropped into silence. I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. My grandfather grabbed my shoulder. "They're forcing your hand. They want the Phoenix Drive blueprints." I stared at him. "If they hurt her." "They won't," he said calmly. "Not yet. They need leverage. And Emily's your heart." I checked the message again. Attached, a photo. Emily, blindfolded, hands tied, in what looked like a warehouse corner. Behind her, a man with a familiar watch. "Edward." That smug, rich coward had finally made his move. I called Victoria. She answered on the first ring. "I know," she whispered. "They sent it to me too. I think he's holding her at one of my father's abandoned refineries just outside Fort Worth." Without another word, I jumped into my truck. The old engine roared like it knew this was the last ride. The refinery loomed ahead. Rusted gates, broken fences, no lights. I parked a mile out and went in on foot. My grandfather stayed back, keeping watch. Inside, the air smelled of oil and dust. Then I heard her, a soft cry. "Daddy!" My heart shattered. I followed the sound and found her. Emily, shivering, hands bound to a chair. Before I could run to her, a spotlight blazed on. Edward stepped out of the shadows. "Let's make a deal," he said. "You give me the Phoenix Drive. I give you your daughter back. Simple." I clenched my fists. "And if I refuse?" He smiled cold. "Then you both disappear, and the world keeps burning." Suddenly, a loud boom shook the walls. My grandfather had triggered the refinery's emergency alarm. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. Edward's smile vanished. "You think this is your story?" he yelled. "You're just a footnote in mine." Sirens howled. Red lights pulsed through the refinery like a heartbeat gone mad. Edward's guards scrambled, shouting into radios. In the chaos, I dove toward Emily, cut the ropes with a shard of metal, and pulled her close. "You're okay?" I whispered, even though my hands were shaking. Then I heard a voice from behind the smoke. "Victoria." She walked in flanked by 2 federal agents and a local sheriff. "Edward Sterling," she said coldly. "You're under arrest for kidnapping, corporate espionage, and attempted murder." He froze. "You wouldn't dare." She held up a flash drive. "You sent this to me years ago. Thought it was erased. Turns out the FBI's forensic tech is a little better than yours." Edward lunged. I stepped in front of Emily. But this time I wasn't alone. My grandfather tackled him from the side, slamming him into a rusted pipeline. "You tried to erase history," he growled. "But history fights back." Guards disarmed. Edward cuffed. Cameras rolled as agents led him out, shouting curses. Media swarmed the scene by morning. Single father rescues daughter from billionaire kidnap plot. Blared one headline. But all I cared about was Emily. Her head resting on my chest. Breathing. Safe. Later that week, we stood before a crowd of investors and scientists. Victoria, now in full control of her family's company, handed me a certificate. "Daniel Ayes," she said, "you now hold the global rights to the Phoenix Drive." I stared at the room, at the cameras, at my daughter. I didn't feel rich. I felt something else. Free. That night, as I tucked Emily into bed, she handed me an envelope she said came from the mailbox. No name. No return address. Inside, just one sentence. The Phoenix Drive was only phase 1. 3 weeks later, our life looked nothing like before. No eviction notices. No broken down truck. No second-hand shoes for Emily. We moved into a small farmhouse outside Denton. Quiet, green, safe. Emily finally had her own room. Painted walls. A bookshelf full of stories. And a window that opened to sunrise instead of sirens. I still woke up early. A bit, I guess. Only now, I wasn't rushing to clean office floors. I was overseeing the launch of something bigger, the Phoenix Initiative. A group of engineers, scientists, and dreamers, building a clean energy future from the blueprints my grandfather owns at Toberry. And we weren't just launching it in Texas. This was going global. At the press conference, Victoria stood beside me. No bodyguards, no boardroom games. Used to people who'd survived the fire, inside and out. She smiled as he stepped to the mic. I was just a janitor, he said. A tired father with nothing but debt and hope. I never imagined the world would look at me like this. But maybe that's the point. Real power doesn't come from bloodlines or bank accounts. It comes from choosing what's right, when it costs you everything. The crowd stood. Applause like thunder. But later that night, as he tucked Emily into bed, he noticed something. An envelope on her nightstand. Unmarked. Just like last time. Inside, a small metal key. And a note written in the same scrawled handwriting as before. This key opens a door beneath what your grandfather built. I never told you everything. I stared at it, breath caught in my throat. Emily looked up at me. Is it over now, Daddy? I kissed her forehead. No, baby, I whispered. It's only just beginning.